Hello everyone, I'm Ing Yum. Welcome to the Candlelight Tales channel. Here on this channel, I share captivating novels and stories. If you enjoy reading or listening to stories, you're very welcome here. And if you like my content, please remember to subscribe, share, and give it a like. Now, without further delay, let's dive into today's story. After the previous episode, we learned that the plane Bai Su was traveling on had crashed. Wesley and the police officers went to investigate the island where the crash supposedly occurred. There, they found the rear half of the plane resting on the beach, but the front half, along with 86 passengers and crew, had vanished. The break was unnervingly clean, nothing like the result of an impact. The police searched the island and the surrounding waters, even sending divers into the depths, but found nothing. When the police withdrew, Wesley stayed behind alone, hoping to think through the mystery in silence. At that moment, he encountered two strange men. They kept talking about spaceships and the Interstellar Aviation Command, yet their appearance and clothing were completely ordinary. After some conversation, Wesley learned that they were people from the year 2064. When he told them the current year was 1964, both men turned pale, utterly lost. Wesley brought them home and promised to keep their secret. Back home, old Choi was devastated to hear about Bai Su's plane crash. Wesley, too, felt grief rising within him. But Wesley was the only person the two future men, Falazzi and Gelly, could rely on. He had to stay strong. He asked old Choi to bring wine, poured drinks for them, and told them everything he had discovered on the island. The half-plane, the metal block, and the writing on the tree. They revealed that the small metal block was the missing half of the plane. They suspected that their navigator, Gudapeng, had compressed it. Gudapeng was a brilliant scientist and the leading authority on the problem of atomic space. Wesley was completely bewildered. They explained that there are vast gaps between atoms. If the space between atoms is removed and atoms are forced tightly together, an object can be compressed to a tiny fraction of its size, while retaining its original weight. That small metal block weighed exactly as much as half a plane. The writing on the tree, "No one can lift or move half a plane," was literally true. They believed the passengers had been taken away before the compression. The military pilot who reported seeing the plane embedded in rock had likely seen only the compressed front half and mistaken it for an impact. Suddenly, both men emitted a crisp, beep-beep sound. Excited, they pulled out a lighter-sized communicator. A deep, booming voice called out. "Falazzi, Gelly." "Yes, navigator," they answered. The navigator already knew they were in 1964 and ordered them to ascend as high as possible so he could send a shuttle to retrieve them. They hurriedly said goodbye to Wesley and rushed outside. Wesley chased after them, shouting, "What about the people on the plane?" He saw their collars flip up into transparent hoods, and then they shot upward at incredible speed. Wesley leapt forward to grab them, but he was a moment too late. Watching his only lead vanish into the sky, Wesley returned home in despair. He sat on the sofa, head in his hands, thinking hard. When he finally looked up, he saw a man sitting on the opposite sofa, staring at him. The man had black hair, yellow skin, looked about 40, medium build, with sharp eyes. Wesley was stunned. The door had been closed. How had this man entered? With Wesley's alertness, no one could have walked in unnoticed. Before Wesley could speak, the man said, "Mr. Wesley, I am Gudapeng. Well, you could say I'm Chinese. I was born near the Great Gobi Canal in Mongolia." Gudapeng. The Gobi Canal. Wesley knew only of the Gobi Desert. The canal must be something built a century later. Could this man truly be the navigator of the spaceship, the brilliant scientist from 100 years in the future? The one who compressed the plane, and the only person who knew Bai Su's fate? Gudapeng examined the furnishings of Wesley's home, picked up a lighter from the table, flicked it on with a snap, and laughed heartily. "Our meeting is truly rare. If not for the cosmic shockwave, how could we possibly meet? We are separated by a full century." He clearly understood his situation. But why wasn't he panicking like Falazzi and Gelly? Why did he seem delighted? Wesley asked, "You seem very pleased. You're quite different from them." Gudapeng nodded proudly, as if he had found someone who understood him. Seeing Wesley's composure, he revealed everything. He claimed to be the greatest scientist of his era. He had wanted to study the sun and harness its infinite energy, but mainstream scientists forbade him and ordered him to build a base on Mars instead. Wesley, being perceptive, immediately sensed Gudapeng's ambition. A man like him would never submit quietly. There must be a conspiracy behind the Mars mission. Indeed, Gudapeng had forged flight data to make Falazzi and Gelly believe they were heading to Mars, when in fact he was steering the ship toward the sun. But the cosmic shockwave struck, propelling them back 100 years at a speed far faster than light. Unlike the others, Gudapeng was thrilled. Wesley understood, an ambitious man desires power above all. Perhaps arriving in the past was even better for Gudapeng than reaching the sun. When lowering the ship, Gudapeng noticed that Earth looked far more primitive than in his time. Falazzi and Gelly were unconscious from the shockwave. Gudapeng saw Bai Su's plane and decided it was the perfect stage to demonstrate his power. He took everyone aboard the ship and compressed half the plane as a warning to this era. Everyone submitted to him, except Bai Su. Hearing Bai Su was in Gudapeng's hands, Wesley leapt up in anger, demanding to know her condition. Gudapeng tried to push him back into the sofa, but Wesley countered with a martial arts move, only to feel a jolt like electricity. His fingers went numb, his body convulsed, and he collapsed onto the sofa, paralyzed for a moment. Gudapeng laughed. "Don't worry. Everyone on the plane is still alive." Wesley breathed a sigh of relief. He secretly reached into the hidden compartment of the sofa and retrieved a pistol. He raised it and aimed at Gudapeng. Gudapeng chuckled. "This is what you call a deadly weapon?" He pressed a button on his chest. His collar rose into a translucent helmet, and two circular shields extended from his sleeves to cover his hands. Through the helmet, Wesley could still see the smug expression on his face. "My suit can withstand meteor storms in space," Gudapeng said. "What can your primitive weapon do?" Wesley was stunned by the technological leap of the next century. Gudapeng took Wesley's gun and fired several shots at himself. Each bullet hit his suit with a sharp hiss and vaporized instantly. The last bullet struck the helmet and stuck there. Gudapeng tapped it lightly with the gun handle, and the bullet fell off. He caught it and handed it to Wesley mockingly. Wesley took it. It was still scorching hot. Gudapeng continued his grand speech. He claimed to have discovered a new element on Mercury, which he named Venus 15. A nuclear weapon made from this element could generate unprecedented heat in a 10,000th of a second. From a base on the moon, a single blast could melt half the Earth. The remaining half would become a meteor due to gravitational imbalance. The moon would drift away, and other celestial bodies would be affected. Only his ship could withstand interstellar gravitational forces, meaning only he could wield this weapon. Wesley demanded, "What good would destroying Earth do for you?" Gudapeng shrugged. "I wouldn't destroy it. Earth is the source of my power. I only want you to know that I can destroy it, and that I require your absolute obedience." Wesley felt a deep sorrow. Even after a century of scientific progress, human nature had not changed. What Gudapeng wanted was not resources, but submission. He ordered Wesley to persuade Bai Su. Wesley agreed, not because he intended to persuade her, but because it meant he could see her again, even if it meant dying with her. Gudapeng took Wesley outside. "When I activate the flight belt," he said, "a protective air cushion will form around us. It will carry us upward at tremendous speed. You may find it unfamiliar, but it is perfectly safe." As soon as he finished speaking, Wesley felt a jolt. In an instant, the streets and houses vanished, replaced by swirling white clouds scattering around them as they shot upward. They ascended at incredible speed, yet Wesley felt no centrifugal force. Gudapeng continued speaking calmly. "We are now rising at 7.9 kilometers per second. Anything, Even a human, moving at this speed, can escape Earth's gravity. Wesley was speechless. Suddenly, he saw the spaceship, a spherical craft over 20 meters tall. Most of its systems were automated, so only Gudapeng, Falatsi, and Geli were needed to operate it. The air inside was fresh and invigorating. As Wesley stepped in and turned around, Gudapeng had already vanished, and the door closed behind him. Through the ship's communication system, Gudapeng told him where Bai Su was. Wesley rushed to her room. The moment they saw each other, they embraced tightly. Gudapeng urged Wesley to complete his persuasion. But Wesley and Bai Su declared they would never submit. Gudapeng threatened to turn them into mindless, living specimens, using high-intensity radiation. They still refused, saying that becoming specimens would only prove his failure. Ruling over a world of mindless beings held no meaning. Gudapeng was determined to remain in 1964 and become the ruler of the 20th century. But after a while, he suddenly changed his mind and agreed to return to his own era. Wesley and Bai Su's refusal had shaken him, but what truly changed his mind was this. In all the history he had studied, there was no record of a ruler named Gudapeng. Meaning his plan to dominate the 20th century was doomed to fail. Wesley and Bai Su were overjoyed, thinking they would soon return home. But suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the ship. Geli had run in too quickly and fallen heavily. Panicked, Geli said, "Something's gone wrong. I sent everyone back to the escape pods and launched them toward Earth. They'll arrive safely, and forget everything." Falatsi rushed in as well. "But our ship seems to have lost control, or is being guided by some unknown force." Gudapeng cried out, "The cosmic shockwave." Looking out the window, they saw only endless deep blue, not a single star. Even Gudapeng, the greatest interstellar navigator of the 21st century, had never encountered such a situation. Worse still, all instruments had failed. They had no idea where they were. They were like sailors lost in an infinite ocean, no compass, no map, utterly adrift in space. Where had they gone? Could Wesley and Bai Su ever return safely to Earth? In the next episode, we'll embark on a space adventure together and discover what fate awaits Wesley and Bai Su. If you enjoy my channel, remember to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Thank you all for your support. Goodbye.